Welcome everybody. Thank you all very much for making the way to Chisenhale Studios. For those of you who don't know me, my name is David Blackmore. I'm an artist and an educator. I'm also artist in residence in Chisenhale Studios just across the hall. But it's great to see a number of familiar faces. First off, I'd like to thank all the panellists who I'll introduce shortly, but also Matthew Hale, who's installed some of his bookend pieces towards the back of the room. And also Christina Mitranci, who one of her noted book sculptures is at the back of the room. But I'd also like to thank Chisenhale Studios for allowing us to put on this symposium. And also a special thanks to Ted, who has funded the studio award that myself and Fritha Jenkins have been lucky enough to have for the past, just over a year. And the Studio Award is in memory of a Chisenhale original member artist, Pete Lloyd Lewis, who unfortunately died a number of years ago. And since then, his partner Ted has funded the studio program to this day. So just to give you a bit of a background to how the symposium developed. As an artist, my interests lie in the structures and systems of human civilization, which in one respect help to order society in our day-to-day lives to ensure that life functions. Though these systems are not benevolent and either suffer due to the lack of capital investment or suffer as a result of being implicit in the acquisition of capital, over time it has become apparent to me that the crux of what interests me and provides inspiration is a sense of frustration born out of our and my ability to operate within these systems and structures. Though on the whole I don't follow destruction through to its suggestive and rather I utilise partial destruction or damage, such as bending a park fence with a car jack until the fence or the jack breaks. Or in the case of a more recent work, European Passport, I used the subtractive act of removal via erasure as a form of critique by removing national emblems from European passports. In the year prior to my involvement with Chisenhale Studios, I began researching reactionary aggression stemming from frustrated outbursts whilst an honorary research associate with UCL Art Museum and the Slade School of Fine Art. During the course of this research, I came across a phenomenon prevalent in American cities and in some places in the UK known as rage rooms. Spaces where individuals would pay to be allowed into a designated space to essentially vent pent-up aggression or energy out by destroying ephemera associated with contemporary life such as flat-screen TVs, ornaments, etc. Chisenhale Studios gave me the opportunity to run a variation of this as part of my residency. The resulting work, Rage Pen, is a relational work where anonymous ventees bring objects that represent a source of frustration or sources of frustration within their lives. Ventees were interviewed by myself, and after which they were given the tools to destroy these objects, such as baseball bats and sledgehammers, etc. The process of which was documented photographically, some of which are installed on the walls here. This work allowed me to access another's, albeit facilitated aggression, frustration, and manic destructive behaviour. So why is destruction in art relevant today, almost 60 years since Gustavmetzger began developing a series of manifestos at the end of the 1960s? Metzger formulated the theory for auto-destructive art against the backdrop of a century of warfare and continual threat of absolute obliteration at any moment of the human race through nuclear war. The video that's on the screen at the moment was shot by myself with my mobile phone on my daily commute to one of the places I teach in, and it's a large video projection or advertisement in Waterloo Station, advertising a British arms manufacturer, BAE Systems. An example of how we are confronted by the obscenity of arms manufacturing for capital gain in this country in a corporate manner within the banality of the everyday. In this, our epoch, we have witnessed what has become known as the Great Recession, which caused economic destruction on a micro and macro level, the effects of which we are still dealing with now. We are continually reminded that we are on the precipice of environmental disaster, a direct result of the infrastructure required to satisfy temporarily capitalism's growth fetish. According to news reports, we as a race are oscillating between the onslaught of a new Cold War and, conversely, nuclear disarmament. Destruction through military action over oil-rich areas in the Middle East by global players is ongoing, where chemicals alongside traditional forms of military destruction are vetted out upon the populace via hybrid warfare, many of which are manufactured in the country we dwell. Our experience and understanding of reality is increasingly dependent on our consumption of imagery. We live in an era of post-truth where reality is manipulated through visual representations that make up the majority of our experiences of the real via mediated realities. The panellists, Sarah Pickering and Amikam Toren, both share a common trait within their work, that being the challenging of representation through engaging with destruction as spectacle and method of critique. So the image on the screen, some of you may be familiar with, it was a record of a missile launch released by the Iranians in 2008, presented as a truthful document of the missile launch. Although it later transpired that the actual image that was used to represent this event to us was actually falsified, because one of the missiles didn't actually take off, and they photoshopped it to make it appear that it had. Each of the panelists have been invited to take part by myself, because destruction figures in their thinking and or making, not necessarily as conscious alignment of their practice with the theory of auto-destructive art, though in all instances, destructive acts form subject matter, backdrop, or method of critique. Michael Hampton is a writer and critical theorist based in London with a special interest in artist publishing, who has contributed to many magazines and journals, including The Blue Notebook, Freeze, a word I can't pronounce, begin with G. What's that word?
Oh, I don't know.
Chick?
No, sorry, can't.
The Penguins Collector's Journal, Rapport, Schism, Slash Seconds, and The White Review. He regularly writes for Art Monthly, and in 2015, his revisionist history Unshelf Marked, Reconceiving the Artist Book, was published by Uniform Books, Axminster. Sharon Kivland recently published as a limited edition his speculative essay, Beyond Walter Benjamin in Paris, Kenneth Goldsmith's New York, in her series The Good Reader. He is currently working on a collection of psychogeographical writings about London. Sarah Pickering's practice explores the destructive act itself through the systems of the state, law enforcement, and military. Her work Explosion, slow down and freeze frame the moment of combustion of explosive simulated weapons detonated by the Ministry of Defence. This photographic work was selected by gustavmetzger in the 2005 edition of East International. Recently, her work has incorporated destruction using gunfire on photographic paper and 16mm film. Examples of some of the photographic works from that series are on the wall. I believe they're entitled Black Holes.
Yeah,
Black Holes. Amikam Toren alters found objects and images, transforming them into paintings, works on paper, video installations, and sculptures full of depth, humour, and meaning. Through interventions both subtle and overt, he teases out poignant truths from an incredible array of unlikely objects. In his armchair paintings project, begun in the late 1980s, he cuts phrases like cathartic logic into cheap, kitschy oil paintings of flowers and landscapes, inflicting both text and image with new significance.